Australia in the early 1990s was a backpacker's paradise. Vast landscapes, cheap hostels, and an open invitation to adventure. Young travelers from across the world descended on the country to explore its wilderness. But hidden behind the postcard-perfect scenery was a danger no one expected. In the heart of New South Wales, several backpackers vanished without a trace. The disappearances puzzled locals and investigators alike. People assumed travelers might have gone off-grid or gotten lost in the rugged terrain. But as time went on, and more people vanished under eerily similar circumstances, whispers of something far more sinister began to spread. Backpacking in Australia wasn't just a travel option, it was a rite of passage. Guidebooks painted a picture of freedom, surf towns, dusty red deserts, and the openness of the outback. For young people in their 20s, it was a dream. They could sleep under the stars, meet other nomads at roadside cafes, and hitch rides with friendly locals. It was cheap, adventurous, and romanticized by those who'd done it before. But there were risks. Hitchhiking left people vulnerable. No GPS, no smartphones. If someone disappeared, there wasn't always someone back home checking in. Australia's vastness became a double-edged sword. Breathtaking, but isolating. One such traveler was Caroline Clark, 21, full of energy and optimism. She and Joanne Walters, 22, had written letters home about how incredible Australia was. Their last known movements were benign. Checking out of a hostel, mentioning plans to explore the Blue Mountains. After that, silence. In September 1992, two runners stumbled upon a horrific scene deep in the Belanglo State Forest. What they thought was animal remains turned out to be human. Police quickly cordoned off the area and began an extensive search. They found two bodies, British backpackers Caroline Clark and Joanne Walters. The remains showed signs of extreme violence. Joanne had been stabbed 35 times. Caroline had been shot repeatedly. The positioning of the bodies indicated they had been deliberately placed. The brutality was not random, it was calculated. Investigators were now certain they had a killer on their hands, and the forest might be hiding more secrets. The police knew early on that these weren't accidental deaths. Joanne's wounds were frenzied but targeted. Stab wounds to her spine suggested the killer tried to paralyze her. Caroline's injuries were equally disturbing. Gunshots to the head, possibly post-mortem. One detail disturbed investigators deeply. The crime scene showed signs of control. The killer had taken time. The forest floor had been cleared in parts. One victim was found with her hands behind her back, as if bound. It wasn't just murder, it was domination. Forensics struggled. Rain had washed away key evidence. The killer had left little trace. No hair, no fingerprints. It was almost as if he knew how investigations worked. The public learned about the case through headlines like "Murder in the Bush" and "British Girls Slaughtered." Panic spread. Over the next year, 5 more bodies were discovered in the same forest. Each victim was a young traveler, often hitchhiking or backpacking through New South Wales. They came from Germany, England, and Australia. All were killed in brutal, ritualistic fashion, shot, stabbed, or even decapitated. The pattern was chilling. Victims were often bound, tortured, and left posed. The killer wasn't just murdering, he was hunting. The media dubbed the case the Backpacker Murders. Fear gripped the country. Tourism declined, hitchhiking plummeted, and the police still had no suspect. Each discovery told a darker story. Gabor Neugebauer and Anja Habschied, a young German couple, were found months apart. Anja had been decapitated. Her skull was never found. Gabor had been shot multiple times. Another victim, Simone Schmiedel, also from Germany, had vanished while hitchhiking to Melbourne. Her remains were found under sticks and debris, placed carefully. She too had been stabbed in a way that paralyzed her. Investigators began to suspect the killer was local, familiar with the forest, perhaps even a hunter. The precision of the killings, gunshots to vital areas, concealment techniques, hinted at experience. The killer wasn't improvising. He had done this before. Australia's National Crime Authority stepped in. It was now a national emergency. The breakthrough came not from a new body, but from a survivor. Paul Onions, a British backpacker, had a terrifying story. In 1990, he had accepted a ride from a man near the area of the killings. During the drive, the man pulled a gun. Paul escaped and reported it to the local police, but nothing came of it at the time. Years later, with the media frenzy around the backpacker murders, Paul saw the sketch of the suspect and contacted authorities. Investigators finally had a name: Ivan Milat. He lived near the Belanglo forest, he owned firearms, and he had a criminal record. Paul Onion's memory became the crack that shattered the case. He remembered details: the killer's accent, his beard, his car, a silver Nissan. The police cross-referenced vehicle records with firearms licenses and found Ivan Milat. Milat's past was troubling. As a teenager, he'd been charged with theft and armed robbery. There were rumors of violence in the family. He had a fascination with weapons and survivalism. His job with the Roads and Traffic Authority gave him knowledge of isolated areas, including Belanglo. In the weeks leading to the raid, police conducted covert surveillance. They photographed him, tracked his movements, listened to his calls. Everything pointed toward him. The final straw came when they discovered he'd sold a vehicle shortly after one of the murders, with bloodstains in the trunk. A massive police operation followed. In May 1994, authorities raided Ivan Milat's home. Inside, they found chilling evidence: camping gear and belongings tied to several victims. Guns matched ballistics from the murder scenes. The case was now airtight. During the raid, police found a chilling shrine: victims' backpacks, cameras, clothing, all stored meticulously. A tent belonging to one of the missing victims was found, folded neatly. Milat kept trophies, much like notorious killers before him. Ivan Milat was arrested and charged with 7 counts of murder. In court, he showed no remorse. The evidence was overwhelming. In 1996, he was sentenced to 7 consecutive life terms. He died in prison in 2019, never confessing to the crimes. The media descended on the trial. Headlines read, "Monster in the Forest," and "Australia's real-life boogeyman." In court, Milat smirked often. He claimed innocence, despite overwhelming evidence. What disturbed people most wasn't just the murders, it was how ordinary Milat seemed. A family man, worked construction, owned a house. But behind closed doors, he had built a personal hell in the woods. Psychiatrists noted his lack of empathy, his need for control, and his thrill from power. He didn't kill for revenge or rage, he killed for sport. In prison, he became infamous. He protested his innocence to the end, even when diagnosed with cancer. He died at 74, unrepentant. Milat's brutality inspired the 2005 horror film Wolf Creek, where a fictional killer lures tourists into the Australian outback. But the real story was even more terrifying.